Hello everyone, this is my proposal for design artifacts. So let's start with the problem. Designers often share a user flow in their proposal, and a user flow usually consists of a number of images and a description to tie all the images together. We use markdown formatting to structure the user flow and try our best to explain what the story is. And this gets problematic when we iterate on these designs. As we post new images, new designs, these tend to get lost in the discussion stream. There's no way to track what changed over time. Of course, the designer knows, but for others, it's rather difficult. To make things even more complicated, sometimes technical discussions happen alongside discussions on design. And we could try and use the issue description as the source of truth while iterating on the design, but it's difficult to track the changes over time. Diffing the issue description to see what changed doesn't really show what has changed in the design. Also, duplication of design artifacts happens when we have something like a product discovery issue and we break it down into implementation issues. You could have a rather large user flow broken into 3 or 4 issues for implementation across different milestones, and this would create the designer would have to duplicate the designs for each of these issues for implementation purpose. What I see this new solution must offer is a way to track the changes in a user flow and allow discussion to take place in the context of the design. So that is the objective with which I approach this, to enable design discussions and to streamline organization and handoff of design artifacts. So what is design artifacts? Design artifacts, as I'm proposing, will live just like issues and merge requests at the project level, similarly at the group level. It is a new entity, just like issues. Similar to issues, they have some common fields like title, description, reactions, and so on and so forth. But what makes it unique is this: screens. A design artifact can be considered to be a bunch of screens. The screens are static images, and screens can additionally have a title, description, and these screens are ordered to tell a story. Screens, when a designer replaces a screen, when they change the title, description, or when they change the ordering of the screen, or even when they remove a screen from the user flow, a new version is created. And we have a proposal to use Git LFS to track changes to screens. And when a designer makes changes to a user flow, not an individual screen, but a user flow, they could save the changes and add a small change log, something like a commit message, which could be used when we track changes using Git LFS. Additionally, design artifacts have discussions, resolvable discussions. These discussions could be general, just like what we have in issues, or it could be point of interest based, which means you have a certain X and Y coordinate in the image that the discussion is about. So let me show you what this looks like. So as you can see, design artifacts live in the left navigation bar. This shows a list of design artifacts. A design artifact could be active or it could be archived. This is the equivalent of issues being open or closed. I'm not entirely happy with the term active, and I would love some feedback on this. Opening a design artifact would come to a screen similar to this. The user can see all the screens in the design artifact. These are point of interest discussions. You have the discussion stream, versions, info would show the information about the design artifact and other metadata like labels and so on and so forth. The notes about a screen are shown here. And you have some viewing controls. And this is what a point of interest discussion would look like. Discussion would open in place and everyone can leave their response. So going back to the information architecture, apart from discussions, design artifacts also has something called sources. This, what I think is a list of source files, design source files, sketch files, PSDs, anything that the designer can leave as part of the design artifact, thereby creating a central design source of truth. Later on, we could, when we have better APIs, we could extract artboards from sketch files or automatically create these screens from the source files. We have labels just like issues with which we can manage workflows. We can organize design artifacts across teams, etc., etc. Design artifacts could be related to multiple issues, and similarly, multiple issues could be related to multiple design artifacts. The idea behind this was, like I mentioned before, a design artifact could tell a rather detailed user story, and we could have a number of implementation issues to implement that story. And for that, we would need a single design artifact to be related to multiple issues, or vice versa. And that's it with the information architecture. So what does an MVC look like? I explained so many things, and all of it doesn't have to be part of the MVC. MVC, in my opinion, could be a new entity called design artifacts that allows discussions, that allows the designer to upload multiple screens and tell a user flow, a user story. And that could be a great first step. Allowing the designer to tell a user story and get feedback and to enable design discussions is, in my opinion, a great MVC. And in the future, we can add features like versioning, archiving, and so on and so forth. Feedback. These are some of the key decisions, and this is where I would very much like feedback. First this is a rather major one, which is making design artifacts into a separate entity and not overloading the issues feature or piggybacking on the issues feature. I thought long and hard about this, and the main reason is the fact that user stories need their space to develop, and sometimes issues can be confining. You could technically have many implementation issues. Implementation issues are aligned. They're influenced by scheduling, and a user flow needn't be tied to that. And that is my biggest decision behind separating design artifacts from issues. And another major thing I would like feedback on is the name itself. Design artifacts versus design discussions. It's a bit of both. Design artifacts are a source of truth for the design solution, and at the same time, they enable design discussions. So I'm a little confused on what to call this. And second is pages and screens. Pages, in fact, in the previous slides, I've used the term screens, but pages is a term that is commonly used in design tools. So I'm on the side of screens because at the end of the day, designers are creating screens. So that, and finally, are active versus not archived. So the idea behind the archive feature is once a design artifact is no longer needed, it can be archived and moved away from the active list. So what would not archived list look like? And I'm not really happy with the term active, but I would love some suggestions. And that's it. I would love to hear everyone's feedback. Thanks.